Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness gracious. Is it that time? Yeah. Yeah. Welcome back. Ooh. This is let me fix this. And up. And over. Yeah. Hello. It's Citizen Sleeper time, everybody. We tried it last week and my internet connection said no. We got a little bit of the way in and it just said Nice try. So far, no dropped frames, so I'm encouraged for that. Internet said it's time to sleep, and you know what? Who am I to disagree? Let's see. What happened since... Well, where did it save? This is a question I don't have an answer to at the moment. Let's see. Citizen Sleepy Time. Our buddy Peak asked us to help them extract data from a fluxed node in the wastes that appeared after the Flux recent event. And we've been working on keeping... Oh yeah! We gave a bunch of mushrooms to the folks on this ship, the Pilgrim Seed, because we've got a bunch of mushrooms. Do I wish we could do this in bulk? Yeah. Is this gonna be okay? Yeah. One mushroom at a time. It's like I always say. So, last time, the flux happened, and we woke up and we were like, this is bad. This is bad for our body. And then we came out here, and the cordon was completely gone. And these ships were also dealing with some stuff, and they were like, we had something like the flux back where we came from, and we were trying to get away from it, so it's pretty bad that it's here too. That's the bulk of what I remember. And this is Saul, the leader of this ship. Saul finds you deep in the layers of the Pilgrim Seed, working on a patch for a life support vent. You hear him coming, his suit hissing as he does. I had to ask around to find you, he smiles. Seems you know the place better than me these days. I doubt it. All I did was hand over 6 groups of mushrooms. Saul nods. I was on the work crew that built this thing, so you may be right. He winks. Saul holds out a hand. Stand up and let me see you. He pulls you to your feet. I don't believe we ever had a sleeper on Ember's hearth. Saul looks you up and down. You sure do make me wish we had. Could have done with a few workers as good as you. Hey, don't assume that all I'm good for is working. Don't reduce me to that, Saul. Saul tilts his head, a little on the quiet side, though. Seems I owe you some answers, seeing as you've been working hard on the Pilgrim Seed these past cycles. He leans against a crate, his suit creaking. What do you want to know about? The flux. Saul sighs. That's what I imagined. He scratches at his beard. I can't say I'm an expert, but I can tell you what we witnessed on Hearth. At first we ignored it. A few farms had their automation systems blink out. Lifter suits locked up. Bots reset their schedules. Nothing we hadn't seen before. But then the news came out of Passero that They'd been hit harder. The local network had gone down and no one could get it back up. It was rough for a while, but out in the farmland, we were used to that. Passero? Capital of Hearth. Tens of thousands of souls made it their home. Saul grimaces. Anyway, we thought the Flux was a freak event until the day they got the network running again. That's when the cascade happened. System after system corrupted. Data lost. And then another Flux hit. And another. Drackley!
Drockley just subscribed. Drockley 1 Mubwave Drockley 1 Yar 5 Ear Sunglasses.
Absolutely. I also say those things. Thank you for the resub. I appreciate it very much. Also, welcome in. We're talking to our friend Saul, who's telling us about the Flux, which made the computers do funky stuff. The bots were running in circles in the fields. People had to be cut out of lifter suits like mine. And the city. I never saw it, but I heard from the others. Saul shivers. It only got worse from there. We couldn't seem to fight it. It cut us right open. That's what I know about the Flux. Some folks say it came from the inner system, that it might be connected to some old tech there or something. But I never heard anything more than rumors. Saul scratches their beard. Sorry, I don't have better news. Saul shifts on the crate. Anything else you wanted to ask? It might be the year 20K bug. It's very possible. When it rolls over to 20,000, the computers just don't know what to do. I mean, it sounds like... I don't know that this is happening, but it sounds like they might accidentally be carrying it with them? I don't want to assume that, but maybe? We'll see. There was something. Saul nods. What do you want to know about? Ember's Hearth. Sure, he smiles. I mean, I spent my whole life on that rock, so I have plenty to tell. I'll save my life story for another time, he winks, but the short of it is that Hearth is the first of Ember's moons, the biggest and the most populated, which is down to the successful terraforming system Sibylle set up back when Solheim owned the system. How are relations with the other moons? Saul smiles. Depends on who you've been talking to. You shouldn't mistake me for a politician, Sleeper. That's for others to do. He gives you a look. But Ember Steppe was a test ground for the terraforming tech that Hearth is built on. While Ember Song was the extraction site for the raw materials and energy needed to make it work. You can imagine that might lead to some tension. However, Saul holds up a hand. Despite what people might say, Hearth was never fully stable. Saul shakes his head. Sibylle liked to talk it up, but after they pulled out and Solheim left, people discovered they'd have to keep the systems running themselves, or the place would soon end up as dry as steppe. Hearth was good as long as the evaporators kept running, kept filling our skies with clouds. Even after the collapse, our people kept those things going, turning that subsurface ocean into a periwinkle blue sky. Saul smiles. Flux ended that, though, and when they failed, the rains failed, and the harvest with it. Saul pauses. And soon you have a city without a way to feed itself. Saul shudders. That's when we, some of us, made the decision to set out on this place. He gestures at the Pilgrim Seed, and look for another future. Saul shifts on the crate. Anything else you wanted to ask? There was something. What do you want to know about? You. Saul squints at you. You want to know about me? I'm not sure that was part of the deal I was thinking of, Sleeper. Unless you are asking about this, he raps on the metal of his suit. In case you haven't guessed, this is the only thing keeping me vertical. He adjusts a shoulder piece. It's a lifter suit, made for working the fields. We had to modify it so I could walk around after the accident. And that's all I'm saying, Sleeper, because to be honest with you, I don't owe you more than that. You want to know about the flux, about Ember's hearth? Go ahead. But don't pry into my life and I won't pry into yours. Saul lets the silence sit, staring hard at the floor. The suit seems to loom over him, looking more like a burden than a support. With the bars around his head, you suddenly start to think of it as a cage. Look, I don't mean to be rude. Let's leave it there. There's too many eyes on me on this ship as it is, and I'd rather just slip into the background. Thank you very much. Saul shifts on the crate. Anything else you wanted to ask? There was something. Saul nods. What do you want to know about? Something buzzes on Saul's suit. He glances at it and frowns. Looks like time's up, Sleeper. Saul stands, flexing against the suit. He takes his cane in his hand. Keep it up, Sleeper. He smiles as he leaves. You're making me think I need to start making new plans for this place. With that, Saul leaves, and you wonder what he means. As he creaks away down the corridor, you can't help but feel there's more to him than it seems. Aki. It's a strange sight, given your time spent in the Greenway, to see a greenhouse choked in red dust. It piles up along edges, gathering in curving waves, and is carried by some unseen wind to whirl in front of the glass ceiling. It is a desert in miniature, a captured landscape of iron-rich sediment and unseen life. Beautiful, isn't it? The remark comes from another figure standing at the viewing window, so quietly that you hadn't noticed them. Did they just arrive, or were they here before you were? Their cloth-swaddled form reveals little. It is. They say nothing. You catch a glimpse of a pale face among the thick material, dark eyes glittering in the red reflected light. They turn to you as the dust swirls. Aki, they smile a tight smile. You are not from the flotilla, am I right? I live on the Eye. But that is not where you are from. She stares into the greenhouse. Everyone is from somewhere, whether they wish to be or not. The red dust glitters in her eyes, whether it is a good place to be from or not. Loving this look, heck yes. Fully on board so far with Aki. Aki gathers her cloak around her shoulders against the cold. What brings you to the wind's long shadow? Wind's long shadow? The ship. Aki looks at you curiously. Do you often wander around ships you don't know the name of? You are a strange one. Aki raises an eyebrow. I don't know whether to report you or send you back to where you came from. She smiles to herself, which is nowhere at all. You glance around the empty corridor, suddenly aware of how quiet it is on the ship. Unlike the other ships you have been on in the flotilla, there is a silent order to the wind's long shadow, and in this moment it feels unsettling. What happened here? Aki squints. That is a broad question, and I am not in the mood to recount the history of this ship or step. Step? Aki turns away, irritated, eager to change the subject. You hear a creak as a set of shutters slowly begin to close around the glass ceiling of the greenhouse. As you watch, you feel the dissonance this place has with that word. There is nothing green here. A dust house, perhaps. It takes many systems to preserve this landscape, Aki begins. To simulate the wind, cycle the dust, layer the sand and dirt beneath. You watch the dust swirling. Systems that are failing. The flux event, Aki glances at you for a sign of recognition at this term, is eroding our ability to keep this place alive, to keep these traces of step alive. She smiles to herself. Which is ironic, because when we left Step, the flux had eroded our ability to survive on the moon. Now the situation is Now the situation is reversed. Away from the moon, its ecosystems are as fragile as we were, living upon it. Something catches your eye as the shutters darken the dust house. The wind's picking away at the dunes, beginning to reveal something. A web, a network of thick branching forms. And then they close completely, and you see nothing in the dark. Soft blue lights flicker on in the corridor, uplighting Aki in cold cyan. You have piqued my curiosity, but I'm so tired, Aki shivers. If you do not have a purpose here on the ship, I recommend finding one. Otherwise, I'm afraid you'll need to leave. Make yourself useful, and perhaps we will get another chance to talk. She turns. I would like that. With that, Aki pads away down the corridor. You stand for a moment in front of the dark dust house, trying to imagine the network of roots under the sand and dust, and then trying to imagine the moon that once housed them. Oh. Just come in and grab stuff from him. I don't have the flux data yet. Just seeing what I need to do. That one is just waiting. Okay, okay. Hey, we haven't dropped a single frame yet, and I'm sure that it's gonna stay that way, because how could it not? Let's do a self-repair to bump that up one. And let's end a cycle. Let's try and find that flux data. Needs a 6, 5, or a 4. We've got a 4. Nice. Where was it? Here? Yeah. Here you go, peek. Sleeper, come look at this. Peek is poring over one of the displays of this makeshift decoding suite they have set up in the Climbing Briar's cargo bay. On the screen, a clump of data pathways, like an ingrown root ball, has started to untangle. This is an existing node, corrupted by the flux event. It's totally twisted up. They glance at you to check you're listening. But inside, you watch as the unwind...
Laser as
Laser.
Just subscribed. Why does my house have no Dr. Pepper?
Laser, that's a great question, and I don't have an answer for you. Let me see if this will go through the screen. Let me just... pop. That is a travesty that there is no Dr. Pepper there. Oh, thank goodness. I'm glad that it made it through the series of tubes. That is a relief. And I'm glad that you now have it. And Aubrey's saying we gotta hydrate. Love to drink water. We found some corrupted data. And our friend Peek here is deciphering it. Let's see where we... big picture, we got hit by a big, sort of like an electromagnetic pulse that messed with our robot systems, but also a bunch of other computer systems. And we're trying to figure out what that is. We're also helping out some refugees that came in on a flotilla that just had the cordon that was keeping them from coming in come down. And we're starting to help out with the ships to resupply and stuff. And one of the ships has a huge terrarium from one of the moons that they came from that on the surface just looks like a bunch of dirt and dust, but underneath there's a weird series of roots that we haven't fully understood yet. There's a lot of stuff going on. I kind of understand some of it. I don't understand a lot of it. We're still in early days. Let's see what's going on with our friend Peak here. So this is an existing node corrupted by the flux event. It's totally twisted up, but inside, you watch as the unwinding pathways leave behind patterns of negative spaces, like shadows staying behind despite their caster leaving, is a whole other data set. Where we can see a picture once we're done with this conversation. We're a sleeper, which is a robot with a human's personality and memories and such imprinted onto it, brought to you by Amazon Analogy. And yeah, James Corden has recently come down. We've got a whole other data set in here. Oh, Laser is a robot in real life. Thank goodness. We've got that investment. We're in it. Peak's eyes shine bright in the pale screen light. The flux event somehow seeds this data deep into the gaps in the node, wrapping them around it. Why? Peak pauses. Peak is our buddy that helped us pass through the James Corden while it was still up and deliver some supplies to the folks there. Peak pauses. I have no idea. You watch the screen, patterns of shadows becoming obvious now as each layer of pathways is pulled away. The flux event itself really did a number on unprotected nodes like this one. Most of the AI systems are screened against radiation and interference, but these exposed nodes? Peak makes a ripping motion with their hands, torn apart. When that deep-seated data gets into the node, it's so hard to clean it out. Peak points to a thick tangle of threads on the screen. Look, here, it looks like it's been tangled purposefully. But it's actually that all the points within the node have been randomly rearranged. It's as if the node was a bag of ball bearings and the flux shook them. The pathways tried to account for the rearrangement once the system came back on, hence the tangle. Peak pauses as the node continues to unwind. I mean, they essentially did just say, this is too messed up, let's just leave the moons we're on. Although, Peak muses, it was less like shaking a bag of ball bearings and more like making them all simultaneously occupy a superposition of every possible position in the bag before locking them back into a new configuration. They smile sheepishly, but that's a technicality. So what is the flux? Peak is such a nerd, and I am here for them to be the nerd that they are. We know it is a wave, one with exotic effects. That's all. Peak runs a hand through their hair. The question is not so much what flux is, but what is causing it? Where is it coming from? Peak turns away from the screen, meeting your eye. And there's something else. They pause. Have you spoken with the refugees? Both of these are true. I'm going to say yes. I've talked enough with Saul. Peak lowers their voice instinctively. What they are reporting: massive systems failures, cascading collapses of life support, of terraforming systems, total data corruption. Peak swallows. The flux shouldn't do that. It can fundamentally rearrange the structure of systems, especially those poorly shielded, but totally collapsing heavy-duty industrial systems, fail-safes and all, that doesn't make sense. Those kinds of systems are built for deep space, for solar flares and radiation. The flux might penetrate them, but any reconfiguration should have been repairable. Peak looks back at the screen when the decoding node lies almost fully open. A shadow pattern of the negative spaces that existed within its scrambled interior darkens the screen, like a set of bruises showing the pattern of the object that made them. I need to look into something. I have an idea of what might be causing this wave, triggering the flux, but I need time to research it. What is it? Peak frowns. I don't want to say for now. Not until I'm sure. If you do need something to do, the flotilla could surely do with the help. From what I heard from Esh, things are tense there. It might be aliens. We haven't met aliens in the game yet, so we'll see if this is where we run into them. We've met sentient AI. Is sentient AI kind of like alien? Maybe, but we'll see if it's alien. Where is Esh? Peak glances around the bay. Must be out. I've been focusing on this, so I can't say I've noticed. Although the quiet is nice. They smile. Give me some time, Sleeper. Peak turns back to their console. I'll have some answers soon, I hope. The enemy would just be an alien that is trying to find its way home. You're absolutely right. AI-liums. You take one last glance at the uncoiling node as you leave. The dark shapes it leaves behind somehow troubling. You try to shake them from your mind. There are things to be done elsewhere. Yeah, that's officially, if you're a non-binary person in tech, in the future, you have to have that. Those are the requirements. If you live in the future, you're non-binary and you're in tech. If you're not one of those, you don't need it. But other than that, you gotta have at least one of those if you meet those 3 criteria. Peak's gonna take 6 cycles. This one's gonna be once I finish the other things, I suppose. Here's the dust houses. Alright. We got a +2, so the 5 becomes a 6, because there's no 7. Got some positive outcomes. I want to re-roll this too. And it turns into a 2. Let's try it. Let's try it. Nah, neutral. Okay. We gotta go grab a bite to eat. Gotta go crunch a munch of some street mushrooms. Thanks, Emphas. You know, there's... I never explored this, and I want to, so I'm going to. Fill up that energy. And we gotta we gotta feed the stray cat that comes around with some crackers. Stray crunches up the crackers as you watch. Sometimes they'll let you stroke them, sometimes not. There is a space cat. The first time you do that, the space cat has a more prominent role, and it's delightful. Start a new day. We got very good dice rolls there along the top. We're gonna fill up this clock by doing an action. It is a big circle. It's a big ring. And we filled up this big ring, so that means that something's gonna happen. We gotta talk to Aki again. I see you've been contributing. Aki stands next to you at the dust house window. I was unsure what to expect when we joined the flotilla on its voyage to the Eye, but after the journey across the system, then the quarantine, and then the flux reaching all the way out here too. Aki stops herself. Thank you. She bows a little. The other ships have only been interested in sending us supplies. We grow all we need. She gestures at the dust house. What the dust houses need, that is the problem that concerns us. She smiles and turns to you. Shall we go inside? I'd love to. Aki smiles. Come. She taps away at a panel by the window. Seems only fair that after you help with the support systems, you get to see what it is you are maintaining. Aki leads you to an opening beside the window. You pass through a dark changing room. You notice Aki is sliding on an oxygen mask and visor. She looks at the swirling dust inside. Inside, it's just like Ember Step. Thin atmosphere, constant dust storms. Nothing that will bother you. I need to show the character portrait, once we're done with this convo. She passes you a mask. The dust isn't exactly pleasant to inhale, so take this. You hold it to your face. Aki became swirling dust. Dun, 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 dun. She leads you through a tunnel, a short decontamination tunnel with its fizzing panels of purifying light, and then through into the dust house. Immediately, the wind and the heat hits you. You feel the rough waves of dust scattering across your face and peer through the amber murk. Your feet slide on shifting piles of sand. Welcome to Step, or an emulation of it at least. Aki's voice sounds distant, echoey. The terraforming process only managed to provide a limited atmosphere around the moon, one which is slowly escaping. It's been like that since I was born, so I got used to the idea. You catch her bright eyes through the amber dust. So did everything else that lives there. You feel something hard beneath your feet, beneath the sand, like a coil of rope. What is under the sand? This is Step Silk. It's one of the plants we established on Step. She kicks away some red sand. Like any bast fiber, it can be redded and woven into clothes. I'm wearing some made from it myself. It's one of many species adapted to Step since the Solheim collapse, which is why it must be preserved. Little history. Solheim is the company that came out to the solar system and set a bunch of things up and then said bye once they had mined everything they wanted. She stares out into the swirling dust. It is as much a refugee as we are, and the dust houses hold hundreds of other species. You look at the pale, unassuming root, threaded thickly through the sand. Aki watches you silently. Had enough? It will be easier to speak outside. Aki leads you back out through the decontamination tunnel, which blasts the dust from both of you with a burst of metallic-tasting air and into the changing room. Aki hangs up both the masks, patiently awaiting your questions. Why bring plants with you? These are more than just plants. This is our way of life. Aki looks exhausted. The Step Silk cannot survive in any other conditions. Neither can the others. And the steppe itself. Aki pauses, pulling her shawl around her. She looks small and pale inside its layers. Steppe was already a doomed world, she sniffs. When Solheim gave the terraforming contract to Sibylle, they believed they could build an atmosphere, but the moon's erratic orbit made it impossible to maintain. By the time of the Solheim collapse, the atmosphere was already fading, and Sibylle's attention was on Ember's hearth, another moon that got more attention. After the collapse, Sibylle fell too, its researchers scattered across the moons, and any central organization lost. Since then, my parents' generation worked tirelessly to survive, to adapt what we had to the failing moon. The steppe silk and other adapted colonies. The steppe silk, the other adapted species, and the life's work of the steppe's colonies. So when the flux started to collapse our computer systems, corrode and destroy our life support, our water supply, our agriculture, we had to leave. Aki sits heavily on a nearby bench. Soon the only traces of steppe will be on this ship. Aki begins to cry quietly. You are unsure what to do. I'm gonna try and be a comforting presence and sit beside her. You sit on the bench beside her as she sobs. You understand why this ship, why the refugees from steppe are so different. Their world was already dying when the flux arrived. Ember's steppe is a terraformed moon, a partial atmosphere, established colonies, agriculture. And yet, when the flux event started, its people had to leave. You think of the Eye, the delicate web of decaying systems it rests upon. The Eye is the space station we're on. What hope does a ruined station have against a wave that corrupts, corrodes, and collapses? Aki interrupts your thoughts, rubbing her eyes. Not everyone left. There wasn't room to take all the people and fill the dust houses. My parents, their friends, and many others stayed. She sniffs. We carry the steppe for them. Perhaps there is hope. We learned not to talk of hope on a dying world. There is meaning for them and any future they can build with the time they have. She stands up. I wanted you to understand the importance of these dust houses, of what they contain. She leads you back out into the corridor. If the flux events continue to reach out to the Eye, we need to build protections to ensure their safety. Aki meets your eye. I can help. Aki smiles weakly. I knew it. You will be welcome on the wind's long shadow whenever you wish. These dust houses are already decaying. I have seen it. She stares into the dust. We had thought that they would last longer, but that last flux event. Help us. Aki looks at you. Please. I will. When you are ready, we will begin the preparations for reinforcing the dust houses. We need to be ready for the next flux event. Aki's eyes shine with the last of her tears. She takes a breath. I will see you soon. Aki drifts away down the corridor, leaving you alone once more at the viewing window, watching the ragged, delicate traces of the moon known as Ember's Steppe. Whew. Whew. Flux does seem pretty bad. It's a bold statement, but I think history might agree with you there. Like someone who doesn't like games with changing rules, I'm gonna say that Flux seems bad. We do have to hydrate. Ugh. Get that water. Get that water, y'all. Oh no! And after I handed through the Dr. Pepper, now the... It's a tough call. I'm gonna say... if you get the water, you can get the ice cream. You can't get just one. At this point, you cannot get just water. You've got to get the water and the ice cream. Not the best dice, but not the worst either. There's us. There we are. I'm trying to trace the outline with the mouse. Swoop. There we go. We've got pretty good upgrades. I'll go on record as saying that we've got pretty good amount of the upgrades. That one is still working. This one still haven't filled up that clock because we've got to do this. Okay. Yes. With remarkable intuition, you not only support the step silk, but harden it. Aki smiles when she sees the result. We are crushing it. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba. We're crushing it. You and Aki stand side by side at the viewing window in silence. The dust swirls and you glimpse the twisted root systems of the step silk through the ochre haze. After all these cycles, you feel a strange connection to a world on which you have never set foot. Aki shifts from foot to foot. She seems restless, eager to speak but unsure of what to say. The dust houses look good. Aki smiles at you warmly. They do. She pauses and turns back to the window. What is the value of all this? She asks suddenly. Of preserving a world we have left behind. None of these... I don't disagree with any of these. I think these are all in line with things I can get behind. I'm going to say heritage. Aki is silent for a moment. Our practices, our lives require the materials, the patterns that STEP provides. But if those practices remain unchanged while the universe around them shifts, aren't they already dead? She pauses. What is better, to preserve at all costs, or to allow things to be destroyed by change? Aki paces away, lost in thought. I'm grateful to you for helping protect the dust houses, for ensuring their slide into decay is delayed, even averted, but now I find myself at an impasse. The stability of the dust houses changes things. It makes me aware of how blinkered we have been. Aki stops to look at you, her posture somehow different. If the ecosystems of Steppe, if its people, cannot grow to meet the future, why preserve it? She frowns. Are we just slaves to the preservation of what came before? You can change. Aki comes close, holds your hands in hers. We must change. We must change to live. She smiles. I have seen that in you. The steppe. These people, this ship, should serve more than heritage, than history. They should serve the future. She takes a breath. There are those in the flotilla that need clothes, that need food, that can benefit from the gifts of the steppe's ecosystem. I want you to invite them. Can you do that for me? Of course. I know that Saul sent you, she smiles. You can tell him Aki, captain of the wind's long shadow, invites all the people of the flotilla to come. Captain? She smiles. You never asked. Aki steps away. You want to know about the flux, no? About its purposes, its origins? She smiles. You wish to protect your home as we could not. I'm afraid I don't have much to tell you. It is an exotic wave of sorts, an energy that passes through matter. It shifts the very charged particles which run through our electrical systems. It is possible to shield against it as you would radiation, as we have done with the dust houses, but only while it is weak. The flux event here was much like the first ones we felt on Ember's Steppe, localized, destructive but bearable. But in time its strength grew. I don't know if it will be the same here, but... She pauses. It is coming from the center of the system, from the close orbit of Helion's star, H1. That is all we could uncover. She is silent for a moment, unsure of what to add. I'm sorry I cannot offer more, but you are always welcome on this ship. She smiles. I hope I will see you when the others come. She squeezes both your hands. I hope this ship, these dust houses, can be more than a museum. I hope they can be a home. With that, she turns and leaves, and you feel that word, home, resonating within you like a struck bell. So I'm waiting on that one. I guess I'm just supposed to unload some supplies here. I think I'm actually supposed to fill this up. I think they're supposed to get mad at me. Welcome back, Laser. We talked a little more with Aki, and she was talking about how the dust houses were basically holding them back from changing, and how they've got to change and they got to welcome in other folks on the flotilla. And we found out she's the captain of that ship too. And now we're here on the docking axis. There's a loose crowd around the supplies you have unloaded, and a tense mood brewing among them. You sit nearby on the edge of the shuttle's docking tunnel, restless. Resting. Maybe restless. Further away, crews from Ember's Song continue their lives as usual, coming and going, trading, discussing. There is a quiet efficiency to the hub, set up as a common space for the swarm of small ships from Ember's Song that are part of the flotilla. I added in the that wasn't there. Unlike Hearth or Steppe, there is no one capital ship for the moon's refugees. Just a mass of individuals traveling in concert. We told Hearth we didn't want their scraps. The jeering voice comes out of the small crowd nearby. Hey, another thing that happened that I didn't mention earlier, there was a set of crates of explosives that disappeared in the previous DLC act. They were mentioned again in this act, so we'll see what happens with those. You turn to see a gaunt, pale man wearing the industrial work gear you have seen many of the Song refugees wearing. You hear me? Peter? Peter feels better to say than Petter. These supplies are to help. He smirks. Oh, how noble of you. Coming out here to help us singers. There is a rumble of anger around the crowd. We agreed to join the flotilla for joint protection. We did not agree to Ember's Hearth using the flotilla to secure their control of the moons. You realize Peter is addressing the crowd as much as he is addressing you. I think they did just go on a much-needed vacation. Yeah, I think you're right. With that cordon down, our crews are more than able to acquire what is needed from the Eye, what is owed as restitution for keeping us restrained. He pats one of the crates you unloaded. So what we need we will take. Saul wants to cooperate. Saul is a farmer. Even the people of Song know that he was simply the sole survivor of Hearth's leadership. His authority means nothing. Peter looks around at the crowd. Hearth thinks they can buy us. But we remember the past. A rumble of agreement runs through the crowd. He smiles at them. Take the supplies if you wish, of course. We are not wasteful. Peter approaches you directly. The crowd tentatively moves forward, and by the time he reaches you, they are already dragging away crates and distributing the contents. I'm not one for shooting the messenger, Sleeper, says Peter as he approaches. But we cannot concede to Hearth here. Not for a moment. Leave me out of it. You already put yourself in the middle of it, Sleeper. Don't you see that? Peter sits beside you on the docking tunnel's lip. What was your plan, Sleeper? Unload the supplies and wait for someone to start throwing them back at you? He nods at the crowd rifling through the crates. Because that's what was about to happen. I'm going to stay silent. I'm going to let Peter find the logical end to his own argument. What do you think happened to the crew of this shuttle? He shakes his head. They were chased out of this place. What is happening here? We are maintaining our independence, he smiles. Do you know anything about Ember's moon, Sleeper? Or were you planning to wander into this flotilla totally blind? An objective outsider offering help. He rolls his eyes. Educate me then. He smiles. It would be my pleasure. I'm going to assume you know the basics. The gas giant Ember has 7 moons. The 3 biggest are Ember's Step, Ember's Song, and Ember's Heart. He winks. We can cover the 4 sisters next session. Step was the first to be settled, a contract old Solheim gave to the terraformers Sibylle Systems when they first claimed the Helion system. That's way back when. Step was a testing ground, and like most testing grounds, it didn't turn out too well. A partial atmosphere slowly sloughing off each orbit, a dysfunctional ecosystem, and a whole load of dust-clogged settlers. The place is a miserable desert long past its best before date. So Sibylle moved to Hearth, where they redoubled their efforts. The subsurface ocean and some balmy tidal heating helped, allowing them to build a real atmosphere, a real habitable world, a fact that the typical Hearth colonist won't ever let you forget. How did Sibylle achieve such a thing, you might wonder? Well, that's where we come in. It's the same old rule of surrogacy, the one humanity built our universe around. Peter claps a hand to his chest in mock pride. My moon, Ember Song, is a sulfur-soaked rock covered in volcanoes, tidally heated by its inner orbit to sweltering temperatures. Exactly the kind of crucible you need to fuel a terraforming project. In energy industry, Industry is the way you pronounce that word. Energy, industry, fuel. Song provided the raw materials for hearth. Peter grimaces. Willinging or not. Okay, that one should be willingly, I'm pretty sure, but maybe willinging is space slang. Yeah. Energy, industry, fuel is a tongue twister, and the people need to know this. And a crucible requires people to run it. Us singers, born into a flaming pit and asked to stoke it so others might live in a paradise in the making. That's what we had to endure until Solheim brought everything down. Peter rattles off this speech from memory, and you wonder how many times he has delivered it. No Solheim, no contract. No contract, no Sibylle. And no Sibylle meant 3 moons suddenly independent. Peter shakes his head. It was a war, Sleeper. Sometimes hot, sometimes cold, and unsurprisingly, Hearth and Step came out of it better than us. Yet, Peter holds up a hand, they need us, Sleeper. Always have. And so we are the linchpin. We are the center around which the moons orbit, not swirling ember. We've resisted takeovers, sieges, and expansions. And now we'll resist this. Half the people on these ships think the flux was caused by Hearth, intentionally or otherwise. And I have to say, some cycles I agree. So before you come out here to hand out supplies like a good soldier, maybe educate yourself. But you abandon song. Peter bristles. I want you to imagine what it is like to try to live on an airless, volcanic rock when every system that sustains you starts shutting down. He spits and wipes a sleeve across his mouth. We abandoned nothing. Some stayed, others left. But we will reclaim Ember as soon as the flux fades or ends. We've weathered worse. The flotilla should be united. Have you been listening? Peter's voice raises immediately. We don't want to be united, Sleeper. Being united by Hearth means living under them. I won't keep you from the docking axis, Sleeper. No one here has the authority for that. But watch yourself here. Try to remember that the Eye is just another in the long list of people who have tried to control us. Stay silent. Peter sighs. Look, we are many, and we have many needs. Ships come to this docking axis for repairs, for requisitions, for friendship. You can provide these as well as any singer. If you want to help in your own name, Sleeper, not in that of Hearth. Peter shakes his head. Carry that name here and you will lose all trust. Be as we are. Act in your name alone. Peter puts a hand on your shoulder and stands. I hope I didn't just waste my time here, Sleeper. And with that, he walks away, back to the shrinking crowd that is distributing the last of the supplies among the crews present. You watch them pass the food and water between them. No signs of conflict between the crews. Just a careful distribution of resources. Peter chats with a few crews, each of them casting looks in your direction, ones that reveal little about the singer's intentions. You stand. It seems the tensions on the flotilla run much deeper than you expected. This won't be easy. Oh, we need a ship mind or some spores. I have neither of those. I know where to get the spores. Ship mind is going to be a little bit trickier, maybe. Can I buy one? Can I just go buy a ship mind? I got a lot of cash, y'all. In this video game, I've got a lot of cash. Yes. I think I need 3 in total, so this isn't going to be, Oh, I already have 5. What am I doing? We got a rich robot here. People do say that's a rich robot. Every single time. The glass shatters on the steel bar beside you, and the taunts don't take long to follow. Hey, Haunt! The spacer calls across the low room. What are you doing here? He laughs at his own pathetic joke. Playing human? Ignore him. You hunch a little further, staring at the hundreds of tiny impact points that scar the bar's surface. A hand falls on your shoulder, but you flinch away. As you flinch away, it pats reassuringly. You freeze in place. Out! The voice comes from behind you, spat out like a shot. You turn to see bright eyes, dark hair, a stare that could breach the wall and vent you all into hard vacuum. As you turn back to the spacer, the second glass comes sailing through the air. Catch! You reach up a hand and the glass shatters across your forearm, showering you in fragments. Through the haze of glass and Girol vapor, Girol is the beverage, you see Tala leap the bar and close the distance to the spacer. The thud as he slams into the wall echoes around the bar like thunder. Now flanked by other figures, quick to their feet, Tala throws the spacer out through the door and stands silhouetted against the rotunda lights. You touch your arm and it feels wet. Someone helps you to your feet and back onto your stool. Broken glass rattles as it is cleared, and a fresh measure of Girol is glugged out in front of you. That same hand, warm, heavy, falls on your shoulder once more. He isn't coming back. We don't tolerate that kind of shit here. Tala flops onto the stool beside you. Let's get a look at you. Tala wipes the powdered glass from around the wound, and someone places a bottle of alcohol and a metal tin with tweezers onto the bar. She disinfects them and then turns to you. That was an ambitious catch, she smiles, pulling a sliver of glass from your forearm. Stupid, but ambitious. You don't feel the pain, only a string of status messages your body delivers concerning dermal damage and exposed structures. You do feel the care, though, as Tala's bright eyes search your thick synthetic skin for splinters. Watch her. Tala works with the skill of someone who has had to pick glass splinters from the skin of a stranger before. She hones in on each bright shard, all the time tapping the tweezer tips in little rhythms that only she can follow. Tala smiles to herself. So, you've been on the eye long? Yes, actually. Long enough. She laughs. Hey, you don't need to act tough with me. A splinter clinks into the tin. Not everyone is like that, idiot. We don't all hate you. She glances around. Some of the regulars, maybe they fear you, maybe they're just curious. I don't know. But I do know that the Overlook is a safe place. I know what it's like to be new in this place. Trust me. She meets your eye. I'm not trying to convince you of anything or separate you from your chits. I just want you to know that if you need somewhere, you can always come here. I know the rations we've got aren't much and the company is, she leans in, limited. But if you need work, I'll happily put you behind the bar. And if you need shelter, well, we can discuss that. You'll be safe. I usually have Francis on the door, but he's up in Greenway this cycle, haggling with our supplier. Francis tends to be particular about what we serve, even if the clientele isn't. She places her tweezer in the tin with a clink. That's you, Sleeper. Here, she slides the glass of Girol to you. This'll help. She stops, her hand on the glass. Wait, does this help? I mean, can you get drunk? Let's find out. She laughs. Just don't sit here too long. I'd hate to see you become a real regular. She walks back around the bar, gathering the glasses as she does, and before long is retelling how she threw that spacer out to a new group that just wandered in, complete with dramatic actions. She gestures in your direction, and you instinctively look away, back to the worn surface of the bar. You take a sip of the Girol. The earthy fungal tones fill your senses, almost blocking out sight and sound, like diving headfirst into a bog. You might not be able to get drunk, but this connection to something grown, something fermented, something old, feels good. Hey, build me a ship mine, please. Thank you. Appreciate it, Laser. I appreciate you building that ship mine for me. And now I need the beautiful spores. Oh, ship. Those are some good dice rolls. Where do I get spores? Mushroom groves? Yeah. Two of them. Two of them. Enjoy some spores. As you cross the axis, looking for a shuttle to take you back to the ruined cordon, you spot Peter, standing at the edge of the central hub. Something about the way he is leaning against the rail, looking down across the axis and towards the blinking lights of the flotilla beyond, makes you pause. He is completely still, his head drooping low and his shoulders hunched high. Let's see what's going on with Peter. You lean on the railing a little way from Peter, leaving a gap between you. This close you can see the blank stare in his eyes, the way his hands hang limply in front of him. He takes a minute to notice you. Sleeper, he inhales sharply. Still hanging around? Are you okay? Peter pauses. Not really, no. Peter closes his eyes. You can feel his mind whirring, the thoughts refusing to be still. You know, Sleeper, he says without opening his eyes, no one asked you to come here. He clenches his jaw. So why don't you just get lost? He looks directly at you, his stare a challenge. What's with you? Peter stands back from the railing. Who invited you, Sleeper? Who said you could come here? You think because the Harthers decided to name you their errand boy, we have to put up with you? We don't want you here. We don't need you. His eyes burn with rage. Go home, you stupid machine. A second after he shouts that final line, he collapses in on himself, staying upright, but all the energy going out of his body. He slumps back against the railing, his eyes closed once more. You wait a while. After that, he speaks. I'm tired, Sleeper. Tired of everything. I'm tired of the empty paternalism of Hearth. I'm tired of the paranoid whining of the crews. I'm tired of endless cycles that look the same, smell the same, feel the same. I'm tired of running, of hiding, of fixing every shitty thing that breaks out here. His shout echoes a little in the hub, but few stop to look. He looks down at his feet. I agree with all these choices. Need to think for a moment. I'll try and maybe Like, I feel this is a little bit patronizing. This is extremely patronizing. You know what? Let's be real. Don't take it out on me. Peter doesn't react. He stands. I'm going to go. He looks to you and sniffs. Get some sleep. Sleep well. Peter nods slowly, turning away. He raises a hand and drifts away towards the center of the hub. You turn back to the railing, not wanting to watch him go. Seeing him like this, you prefer not to stare. The traffic of the Axis rumbles on as you watch, under an endlessly shining sun. The same air recycled through all of these lungs, the same dust gathering speck by speck on the windows. You take a sharp breath, stand straight, and get moving, before the inertia of it all gets you too. We gotta do some tasks. We gotta master these tasks. Gotta go find Alex Horn and master a few tasks. Let's do... Yeah. Fall a slumber. Honk shoe. Honk shoe. Boop. We get a random scrap item. We got a scrap component. Yippee-ki-yay. We got another one, Mr. Falcon. These dice are not the best. Yeah, got it anyway. Got a neutral outcome. Sleeper. Peter calls to you as you cross the Axis. He is standing by the same railing as you saw him at last time, and he beckons you over. I've been hearing things. He gives you a sidelong look. Bad things? Peter smiles. No, at least not entirely. He rubs his hands together nervously. You wait for him to speak. You know, on Song, I was a teacher. That explains why he's so tired. He glances at you, anticipating your response. I'm not gonna give him one. I'm not gonna give him that, Oh, you're a teacher? No, that makes sense. Mechanical engineering. It's an essential subject on a moon where a single mechanical failure could mean the death of hundreds. He looks at the ground. The heat, the atmosphere, the radiation, all of it is hostile to us. My students knew this. Their work, their training was respected. As long as they were careful and respected Song themselves, they could have their choice of colony placements. They were always in demand. That meant I was respected, surrounded by friends and colleagues, always able to call in favors and repay them like for like. He frowns. Song colonies are small, close-knit. We look after our own. When the flux events started hitting, colonies went dark overnight. We all knew what those kinds of failures meant. Like always, we lost more people than any of the other moons. He balls his hands into tight fists. Not a single one of my students left Song. Our future was cut off just like that. My future. He flexes his hands. What am I out here? What use am I? Song is a fading memory, and the systems we built there are useless out of its orbit. How am I supposed to move on from here? He looks at you, eyes steely gray and glinting. Find someone to teach? Peter pauses, thinking. You don't give up, do you, Sleeper? You just keep going. Peter shakes his head. You remind me of a student of mine, one who entered the program from one of the smaller colonies. They didn't have the advantages of some of the others, but they were stubborn. Stubborn as hell. By the end of the program, they were the most skilled of their peers. They didn't get the best assignment, maybe because they didn't spend much time making the kind of connections that would help you get there. But that didn't matter, because I knew they would make the best of anything they set themselves to do. Peter is smiling now, buoyed up by the memory a little. Singers are stubborn, Sleeper. We aren't going to change easily. We won't forgive easily or take help easily. But we'll hold strong, and you can count on us for that. Peter stands from the railing. When you see Saul again, you can tell him that. You can tell him how the crews of the Ember's Song operate. Tell him we will resist. If that means resisting Hearth's imperialist ambitions, so be it. If it means resisting the Flux, so be it. And if it means to, as you have, help others resist those same pressures, so be it. Peter smiles. And then tell him to leave us alone. He turns, his step lighter, and heads off towards the center of the Axis' hub. Okay. That one's still a work in progress. We got 2 more cycles before that clock fills up. We can talk to Saul. When you arrive at the bridge of the Pilgrim Seed, Saul is waiting for you. You wouldn't believe the messages that have come through in the past few cycles, Sleeper. He smiles. The ship from Steppe has sent a goodwill gesture, a whole cache of supplies from their own farms. He smiles. I'm not sure how we'll use them, but the gesture is a welcome one. Song, meanwhile, are apparently accepting supplies again, although a little reticently, if I may say so. Saul smiles. I don't expect them to change anytime soon, it should be said. And what I'm wondering, Sleeper, is what part you had in all of this. Saul eyes you, waiting for an answer. No part is just a lie. Like, there's humility and then there's lying. I changed things is true. But so as I helped where I could. I helped where I could. It feels right. It feels good to say it. I've come to expect that of you, Sleeper. He smiles. You look at Saul, his eyes bright and eager, and wonder what he sees in you. Are you a tool to be used, or an ally? It can be hard to tell. I am looking for the kiss button. I haven't found it yet. I think that's a glitch. We'll see if we can figure it out in a later playthrough. Gotta change the ring light color. Are we feeling a blue? How are we feeling with the blue? It's got many color. Can also do, let's just run through these while we're here. It's not really showing up. That's sort of a Mountain Dew green, but it's just showing up pretty normal. There's a purple, a light blue. This one shifts through the colors, and I can make it go pretty fast. But that will also probably give me a headache, so we're not going to do that one. The dark blue. Let's go back to the dark blue. We gotta cycle through it. Yeah, I'm not gonna give myself a headache. There's... Is that it? Yeah. Yeah. We got a blue. Back to Saul. I want to show you something. Oh, and Dracula, yeah. We don't have any changelings yet that we know of. Saul squeezes your shoulder, turning you to face the lift. He leads you along the axis of the ship, towards the engines, the clanking of his suit accompanied by the constant hammering and welding that fills the echoey bulkheads of the Pilgrim Seed at all hours. With the cordon lifted and shuttles able to go out to the salvage scrap and barter for supplies, the ship has become a place of transformation, moving towards some state yet to be revealed to you. You look at Saul. What is his plan here? What is he preparing the Pilgrim Seed for? Or are his sharp eyes simply focused on making it through the next cycle? Suddenly, Saul stops in front of a huge bulkhead door, like the seal on the front of a dry dock hangar. He signals to someone in a cabin high up, attached to the wall, and they begin the process of opening it up. The Pilgrim Seed was built as a short-range freight carrier, you know? The amber warning lights on the bulkhead doors send spinning shadows across Saul's face. We built it to ship the entire harvest from thousands of farms to the silos at Passero. When we realized we needed to leave, it was the biggest ship we could muster. Saul raps on a metal plate, and somehow she's carried us all the way out here. We? Farmers, mostly, from outside the city and the edges. He flexes his shoulder beneath his suit. We saw it coming first, I guess. Knew it was time. Others didn't want to believe. I was a farmer, and I had a whole load of land and people to run it. And my people helped convert this place for the long trip. He looks at his feet. Others led, organized the evacuation, and debated the plan. What happened? Not one of those folks made it. Saul rubs his forehead. We were out in the black a long time before we got here, Sleeper. Things happen. The upshot is I was chosen to take over. I guess my crew trusted me, and I knew the ship. I argued, reminded them I'm no leader, and that I'm sick. But, well, when service chooses you... A loud klaxon sounds, indicating the bulkhead doors are ready to open. They groan as they slide back, the metal squeals echoing through the vast ship, bouncing off its hard-plated walls. At first, all you see is darkness. Then the lights go on in huge strips that stretch back and back as far as you can see. The space in front of you, a vast bay bigger than any you have ever seen, is empty. When we left Hearth, we didn't have the time or resources to convert the entire ship. Saul begins leading you into the massive space. So much of the freight space we sealed away, shut down. But now we have time. We have resources. We stabilized here, at least for the moment. Saul turns to you. Now is the time we make use of all this. What are you planning? What do you think happens next for the Eye Sleeper? Saul sighs. The flux has already hit one part of the station, and from what I know, it'll hit again. On Hearth, we lost everything. There isn't much time, Sleeper. But there is enough time if we do something. Think of the number of people we can fit on here. The farming stacks, the housing. Hell, we can plant some of those mushrooms you love so much. This is the way forward. The only way. We need to fill this ship with able bodies and head for the starboard belt. I thought the Eye was your destination? It was, until the flux hit here. Now, it's just another stop. I'm glad of the chance to resupply and salvage, but we need to go further out. I want you to help me. You know the Eye, you have connections, and you can work hard. I've seen it. Saul meets your eye. I know you are like me, Sleeper. You didn't choose service, but it chose you. Can this work? It has to, Sleeper. There's nothing else. I know it's a lot to think about, Sleeper, trust me. Saul begins to lead you back out of the bay. But think of what we can do here. The flotilla can't last forever. We need more than just farmers to make this work. We need to build a new world for ourselves. I've heard that out there in the belt, there are people who've been setting up since the collapse, making something of their own. That's our future, tucked away in those rocks, far from all of this. Saul sighs. I didn't bring my people here just to let them die someplace new. Saul crosses back over the threshold of the bay and signals for the operator to close it up. The door groans and Saul waits for it to stop. Think about it, Sleeper. Saul claps an arm on your back. But don't wait too long. This is happening soon. And he leaves you there, in the silence of this vast bay, your head spinning with the thought of leaving the Eye. Alright, we got upgrade point. We need to wait for Peak to finish deciphering this, so we've got a little time to spend elsewhere. Neutral outcome. 1 good service. Yeah. Just got a mask hanging out. A mask in space. I don't think I can spend... Yeah, I can't spend my upgrade point on anything. There's me fixing up a... something. That'd probably be negative, so I'm going to go sunbathe. Not my best work, but that's okay. Still got a bit of energy. Why did I leave? I want to go to sleep. Shoo. Right. Now I go back up here. Peak. Have you ever heard of CAN channels, Sleeper? Peak asks as soon as you enter the bay, as if you were in the middle of a conversation. There are heavy circles under their eyes, and you aren't sure if they've moved since you last visited. The console they are working at seems to have grown, too, shadowing their slight frame in a wealth of screens and wires. CAN? You mean for transit? Yes, exactly. Peak turns to face you. Kiomani's active negation. the name of the effect used to transport trillions of tons of materials from the surrogate systems to the core. You might have heard of it in your physics classes. At XPR, they hammered the principles into us as kids. KAN. Peak recites the definition as if in the classroom. A process of collapsing spatial causality along the Euclidean distance between 2 points by negating mass simultaneously at both ends of a geodesic curve. Essentially, CAN channels allow for the near-instantaneous transport of raw materials between systems. They require huge volumes of energy, of course, and decades of construction. But once a CAN channel is established, it opens up a system for infinite exploitation. It's like a little tesseract. The backbone of surrogacy is what XPR called them. Peak shakes their head. They might not be able to send anything more complex than a rock through them. Complex machines and people are, shall we say, reconfigured by the process. But for raw, molecularly pure materials, Peak flicks a hand. Whoosh! Where is this going? Peak pauses. What I was trying to figure out was whether the Helion system, this system, ever had a CAN channel. CAN channels are vastly expensive to build, to run. Not every surrogate system has one. Many use fraction drive ships to transport their materials to the nearest hub. But Solheim... Peak smiles. Solheim spared no expense when they established this system. There's a CAN channel? Yep. Peak's eyes light up. They shut it down before the collapse. They couldn't run the sender-receiver station anymore. But it was there. It still is, as far as I can tell, closely orbiting our star. In fact, Peak grins, they've been building to this. I'm sure it's still there, because one of the issues with CAN channels are the massive waves of exotic energy they can produce when cycling up. The flux. Exactly. Peak's face suddenly drops. Someone is starting up the channel. Why? Peak sucks in a breath. That, I don't know. They start counting off information on their fingers. They need a lot of resources to do it, and they need to have people from the core systems. But there's no real large-scale extraction in the Helion system anymore, so why would you go to the trouble? Just to trigger the flux? Peak rubs their red eyes. The flux, the wave the CAN effect produces, is a side effect. A problematic one. But it isn't a destructive force. If it was, the core systems would have never been able to use it. So then why are colonies collapsing because of it? Why is it chewing through systems, the kind of industrial systems set up to function within the range of a once active CAN channel? Peak is getting frustrated. The moons of Ember have been terraforming since before the collapse. They would have had to deal with the flux. Yet everything we have heard from the refugees says it brought down every system they had. Peak falls quiet, thinking it all through. Your mind drifts too, thinking of the CAN channels, those vast acausal highways that prop up the core systems and their endless appetite for resources. This system has been quiet for decades. Solheim collapsed. Most corporations gave up their claims, and apart from the Celis ships that came to begin work on the sidereal horizon, no one from the core has come here in all that time. You shiver as you imagine the attention of the core, the systems of logic and exploitation that created you, created your suffering, turning towards the Helion system. A floodlight turned to this dark corner. A shrill bleep catches both of your attention, and Peak rushes to a screen, one showing a crude map of the station. On it, individual markers begin to flare up with insistent chirps. Peak looks puzzled for a moment, and then their face drops. No. They lean in close. This doesn't make any sense. What's happening? The fluxed nodes are appearing elsewhere on the station. Peak pulls at their hair. I set the system to alert me to the other flux nodes near the epicenter of the flux event, but these are everywhere. The hub, the low end. How can this happen? The only reason we saw flux nodes here is because the most rundown part of the station. They were barely shielded. But others appearing? So far after the event. Peak turns to you. You are going to need to get me the data from those nodes, and quickly. I'll keep looking at what I have here, but I need to know why they are popping up everywhere. Right now? Right now. We can talk more about CAN channels and system history when you're back, but this needs our attention right now. Peak turns quickly back to the monitor, their eyes following scrolling screens of code spewing from the newly fluxed nodes. You leave quickly but struggle to shake the image of the spotlight from your mind. You feel watched as you cross back into the Pilgrim Seed on your way to a shuttle bay. You hurry onward, eager to outrun the fear. I didn't mean to hit the rhyme there, but it did happen, and I'm not going to apologize for my art. I'll give you a little 4. I'll give you a little 4, buddy. Six, 5, 4 again. Play the 5. The can is a wormhole system that's incredibly useful for transferring raw materials, but it creates a byproduct energy that might be causing the flux. That's what I'm gathering. It also seems like okay, good. The fact that it is this destructive feels deliberate. That the kind of minor interferences were expected, but this was tearing through things that should be built to withstand the kind of extreme disruption that the flux is bringing, and it just tore right through them. So there's something funny going on. Not haha funny. Well, maybe haha funny. Probably not haha funny. I'll just be a moment. Don't leave, sleeper. You watch as Peak works on the flux data, the nodes unfolding like flowers now, giving into Peak's increasingly sophisticated decoding protocols. Seeing data like this as an image on a screen is an almost unrecognizable representation to you. It is nothing like swimming among nodes and threads. Despite this, Peak has proven themselves to be more than able to handle these complex data structures, even through this limited representational paradigm. The bay door hisses, interrupting your flow of thoughts. You turn to see Esh entering. Esh. She looks up and meets your eye, but doesn't respond. There was a hypothesis that someone was using it as a weapon. Esh does have very good biceps. Peak seemed a little bit dubious about it being deliberately used as a weapon as is, but someone might have messed with it. We'll see. Esh stalks into the bay, head down. She looks tired and not in a mood to talk. How's the weapon hunt? Peak asks, without turning from their screen. The explosive crates we talked about earlier. That's what she's looking for. Slow, unsuccessful, tedious. Esh slams a bag down on a crate and hops up to sit on it. You still unpicking balls of yarn? With the sleeper's help, Peak smiles. They brought me some good stuff this cycle. Maybe they could help you find the weapons you were smuggling? It's clear that Esh doesn't appreciate Peak's tone. Still looking? Uh-huh, Esh replies. And whoever took them better be making the most of their rapidly shortening lifespan right now. Esh. Peak cuts in without looking away from the console. We talked about this. This is my mistake, Peak, and I'll fix it how I want. Esh folds her arms. I know one of the factions of the flotilla has taken them. I just need to find out. Peak holds up a hand. Shh. They lean towards the screen. Son of a... What? They hid it in the wave of the wave. Peak is whispering to themselves. It's alive. They lean back in their chair. Esh crosses over to look at the screen. Alive? Well, it's growing. It's processing. It's quietly working away in the dark. Look. You cross over to the screen and stand beside Esh. In it, you can see that Peak has all 4 nodes decoded, and the pattern of shadows from inside them sit on the screen like dark stains. Then you notice it, the movement. The thin threads cross from one stain to another. As you watch, you notice that the movement only ever happens in your peripheral vision, as if this thing, this shadow, knows it is being watched. This is how the other fluxed nodes appeared. Peak rubs their eyes. They weren't fluxed by the wave, they were corrupted after the fact. This thing, the shadow that entered in the wake of the wave, it corrupted them. But it made the corruption look like the result of the flux. It's a sleight of hand. Peak runs a hand through their hair. The flux wave is so massive, so complex that it opens up the systems to be attacked. As it reconfigures exposed systems, this shadow is broadcast in, implanted inside. The wave from the can channel. It is a brutal force way of hitting every system in Helion. Once the systems are vulnerable, Peak looks pale. Their eyes reflect the screens. The flux isn't what is attacking the systems. It is the siege weapon, a Trojan horse. Then this thing takes over. Peak sits back in their chair. And it's already on the eye. Wait. Esh rubs her forehead. You're telling me there's a can channel in this system? Shit, Peak isn't listening. This is bad. We have to take this to someone. Peak looks desperately at you. Do I remember who Helene is? I'm gonna say Helene. That feels right. Is that wise? Esh cuts in. Havenage haven't exactly been making good decisions lately. They are the station administrators, Esh. Peak is desperate. They need to know. The argument rages between them, and as you watch them shouting, you feel sick. After a while, they stop, running out of things to say. An unsettling silence descends on the bay. I need more time, Peak says quietly. I need to look at solutions, try to build a case, collate the evidence. We messed this up. They look down at their hands. Esh goes to speak and then thinks better of it. Not a word, Sleeper. Peak meets your eye. Don't tell anyone until they are ready. They sigh. With the tension among the refugees, Sol won't be ready to hear this, and Helene and Havenage are still mired in some sort of crisis. We tell Havenage that they are likely to react badly. And even with the flotilla stabilized, Sol is not going to react well to this. I need time to build a case. Yeah, I think that is a good metaphor, that can is the Can gets the password, and then the breakdown is from that password going in and messing with everything else. You're too twisted up in this, Peak, Ash says quietly. This is not our place. We don't owe... Stop, Ash. Peak slumps in their chair. Stop. You leave them like that, exhausted and troubled, and head back out into the Pilgrim Seed. When you close your eyes, you think of those shadows, that movement at the edge of your vision. Something dark growing in the station like a parasite. You feel sick, your vision blurs. What comes next? You stop in a corridor and take a breath, putting a hand on a rumbling metal wall. For now, the eye keeps spinning. For now. This might be the end of this act, I'm not sure. Not quite, not quite. Oh, yep, it is. I felt it. I felt that was the end of the act, and there it is. Episode Purge, coming early 2023. Ooh, I'm interested. Ooh, I'm invested. They've got my interest. We do have this that I didn't finish up. Let's go work a shift at the bar. This isn't new, it's just something I didn't do before, so. That is a pretty long time, but it is free, and I appreciate that. They're doing it on the house. And early, I'm guessing April at the latest? So, no more than 6 months. I'm good with that. I'm good with that. But that is a bit of a wait. I am eager to see the end of it. The girl slides from the bottle into the lumpy recycled glass, a pale grassy yellow under the overlook's warm lights. The spacer nods and takes the drink, bringing it up to their face in both hands like an offering bowl. This is the good stuff. The stuff Tala says is aged in wooden casks, stored in some closed-off part of the old station, among corroded wires and softly looping systems. Though sometimes it is hard to tell if Tala is joking. Either way, you like pouring the stuff. It gets on your fingers, and if you rub them together, you can smell the mossy drink, cut through with aniseed, mushrooms, wood, and the alcohol evaporates. You like those who order it, too. The aged gear roll is kept beneath the bar, open to order only by those who know it's there, like the quiet spacer sitting at the bar right now. Yeah, we'll keep busy. You pull a rag from your overalls and wipe down the bar, the gear roll smell lifting, then disappearing into the stale station air. The overlook is quiet this cycle. The salvagers busy offloading, the regulars likely at the Ort Exchange or queuing for work at the Havenage shipyards. You're in the right mood for a quiet shift. Some cycles drag along, the overlook empty and claustrophobic, but this one has caught you just right, and in this moment some kind of calm has descended as you tinker away at the bar, lining up the bottles as your thoughts expand to fill the space. Suddenly you hear a heavy clunking at the door. It creaks open and a huge cylindrical metal tank tumbles through, slamming into the floor. Shit! Tala breezes in from behind it, a whirl of hair and bright eyes. Shit. Tala? Sleeper! She ducks behind the bar and comes over. Can you help me with this? You look over at the huge metal tank suspiciously. I'm coming. You come around the bar and get to one side of the tank. Okay, says Tala. On my count. 1, 2, 3. You both heave the tank up to standing. Somehow. You hold it in place, struggling to keep it steady. Where's this going? In the back, comes a voice from behind the tank. Somehow you manage to lug the huge thing into the back room, where you place it in one corner, dwarfing the rest of its contents in the cramped space. As you do, you hear a crunch. Pause for dramatic effect. You stand back and look at the expired rations oozing out from under the tank. Aw, shit. Tala looks at you apologetically. I know you liked those. Good riddance. Tala smiles. Oh, good. I thought maybe liking expired rations was some kind of sleeper thing. You push the crushed rations to one side. That's the end of that. Tala looks exhausted and rubs her shoulders. Francis, I swear to... Francis? Francis, I mentioned him already. My guy on the door. Deals with suppliers? Tall? She sighs. He was supposed to be back from Etienne's up at the Greenway by now. Back with our gear roll. She leans against the tank. It seems like he's got lost again. Or joined the Haifa commune. We need that gear roll. There's 4 other bars near here, and the spacers sure as hell don't come to the Overlook for the ambience. Ambience. She looks through the open door to check if anyone can hear her. She knocks on the hollow tank. So I'm taking matters into my own hands, she smiles. Welcome, sleeper, to the Overlook Distillery. You look around the dank back room. Needs some work. She picks at some paint flaking from the metal walls. Well, I might need some help, though. She shrugs. You up for it? She knocks on the tank again. Could be fun. Happy to help. Okay. She grabs you by the shoulders. I'm excited. She turns around and looks at the tank. I reckon we chop this thing in half, one half for fermentation, and the other we turn into a still. We'll also need to gather the ingredients. She turns back and looks at you. You look more like a chopper than a gatherer, she smiles. So how about you build the still and tub while I work on the rest? Oh, wait, sleeper. I have an idea. Tala is grinning now, and it is making you nervous. To make up for the rations, how about we put a kitchen in here too? Will it fit? We'll make it work. She turns back to the tank. Ah, this is going to be great, she says to herself. You look at the dented tank in the bare room. At least she has vision. Tala nudges you out of the back room and closes the door. As you go back to the bar, you hear the banging and thumping begin. The spacer finishes up their drink and nods in your direction as they leave. You can't quite tell if it's a gesture of sympathy or good luck. So much for a quiet shift. Build the stilled. Neutral! Hooray! I guess. Let's do a stabilizer. Not the best dice. See if we get better with a reroll. Mildly. Very mildly. Yeah, let's just use them. Let's go get a food first in case we get a miss. I should have done that a little bit ago, but it's fine. It's fine. Yeah, we're good. Build the stilled. With me. Can I do an upgrade? I don't intend to be breaking. So I'm saving up for an engage upgrade. Tala stands back from the newly finished still and tub, hands on hips. Look at this, she grins. The overlooked distillery in all its glory. She squeezes you around the shoulders. Thank you. How's sourcing ingredients? Tala smiles. I think I've got most of it covered between the food factories in the low end and the farm stacks on the Greenway. However, she pauses, there is an issue. Tell me. Well, Gearroll the drink, as you probably guessed, is named after Gearroll the mushroom. That's what gives it its golden color and earthy taste. The alcohol is infused with the mushrooms along with a mix of spices. That means you need Gearroll caps to make Gearroll, but nobody wants to supply us. The distilleries on the Greenway are taking all the stock from the farms out there, so it's hard to get a single cap across Founder's Gap. Got 3 of them. I've got 3 of them. However, I have an idea, she smiles. We can grow our Gearroll caps here. She gestures at the increasingly equipment-filled back room. I can bring you some mushrooms. Tala gives you a pitying look. Where's your vision? Any outside supplier means they take a cut. Okay, maybe not you, but someone, somewhere takes a cut. Tala puts a hand on the still. We made a still. We set all this up. How hard can growing mushrooms be? They don't need any light. They barely need soil. We can do this. She pauses. Or at least we could, if we had something to grow them from. Like spores. Exactly. Suddenly you feel like you've walked into a trap. And you are the perfect person to get me those spores. She nods rapidly. Think about it. You built the still, you are great with plants, and know the eye like the back of your hand. Need I go on? I mean, most of that is true. Are you flattering me? If it's working, then yes? She grins sheepishly. Look, I can't leave the bar, and the other people picking up shifts, she grimaces. I'm saying it has to be you. Fine. Wonderful. You'll love it over at the Greenway, I think. All that fresh air, open space. She sees your expression. Okay, I'm done. I'm done. She turns back to look at the still and the fledgling distillery forming around it. It really is something, though, isn't it? And want to or not, you really have to agree. What do I need? How many? Always 3 spores. They won't teach you this in school. This is what they're not going to teach you at Harvard. You always need 3 sets of mushroom spores. Went too far, went too far. Here's the rest of your mushroom spores. Oh, now what? 6 cycles, my goodness gracious. I think that's that's our only active quest, so we're just going to... You know what we want? We want stabilizer. And we can get stabilizer through further growing of mushroom. Or in this case, harvesting of mushroom. No, not worth it there. Okay. I've done a bad job. Thanks for the food. It's going to be 6 cycles, so I'm just going to sort of, how you say, speed run. One. 2. You gotta have 3 sets of spores. No, I think it is just get up, leave, go back in, and cycle. Rinse and repeat. I will do a sunbathe so that I'm not starving. Let's go ahead and do 2. But I could do some activities. It wouldn't do enough to make it worth my while to do those things. But I did get those 6s. Oh, that's very tempting. But I fought against the ring's power. Before I forget. Oh, one more. Okay. Hey, I can get another stabilizer. This'll be. This is where we will see the distillery in full swing. Presumably. I don't know. I haven't done this particular branch. This particular plot line. Tala comes to you one shift when the bar is empty, tapping you on the shoulder as you clean the bar. It's ready. She is grinning from ear to ear. Can I try? Obviously. She grabs you by the arm before you can ask anything else and drags you into the back room. The smell hits you immediately when you enter, a cocktail of rich fermentation and chemical sharpness. The room is warm and bright now, the newly installed lights making this place look clean, whether it is or not. Tala has already pulled up a couple of stools around a metal crate, where 2 glasses with a few fingers of pale girl sit waiting. She smiles. I haven't even tried it yet. You can see she is nervous. You both sit at the makeshift table. the slight strangeness of the situation making you both jumpy. Tala hands you a glass. Cheers, she says solemnly, and knocks the glass back. You do the same. The first sensation is burning, a sharp, nose-clearing blast of alcohol that has your frame querying whether you would like to activate safe mode. You gulp the drink back, and it is only then, behind the burn, that you taste the earthy tones of the mushrooms, the wood and the soil left behind, like sediment, barely there. It's not terrible. That's strong. Tala nods vigorously. Oof, that was heavy. Has promise, though. You think? She swirls the glass and puts it down. Wait, I have an idea. Tala grabs a metal bottle from the newly installed work surface and adds a few drops of water into the gear roll. Try again? This time the burn is a warming glow. Harsh, but fading off, and the woodiness less heavy. You taste something floral in among the marshy decay. Something fresh and bright that you never expected to find. Both you and Tala meet eyes. It's really good, right? It is. Tala grins with her whole face, and that makes you smile too. Tala pours out some more gear roll and then adds some more water, the actions already taking on the quality of a ritual. You both drink. Tala tucks her feet up beneath her on the stool, folding her legs. She looks down into her glass and swirls the liquid thoughtfully. What's on your mind? Tala looks up at nothing in particular. My father opened this place, you know. She says out of nowhere, a thought suddenly becoming words. It was his attempt at making a life for us, for my family, when we got to the eye. Your family? My father, my mother, my little brother. She takes a drink. They aren't around now. I'm sorry. That's okay. My parents had long lives, and my brother is somewhere in the starboard belt. Ran off with the salvage crew. She puts her glass down. He's alive as far as I know. I was just thinking about something my father told me. When he first set this place up, he wanted to call it the Bantayan because he was afraid it would scare the customers, so he translated it. Hence the Overlook. And these past few cycles, when I've been in here, I've been thinking I should rename the place. She looks at you. The Bantayan. What do you think? What does it mean? Dad said he translated it to Overlook, so something like that. Watchtower, maybe. Lookout. Tala picks up her glass. That settles it then. To the Bantayan. You both clink your glasses and drink up. Tala hisses through her teeth. Still harsh. She laughs, then suddenly grabs your shoulder. Oh, sleeper. I totally forgot. She stumbles to her feet. She lurches over to a corner of the room, covered with a plastic sheet, and whips it off like a magician performing a trick. Is it a kitchen? Beneath it is a neat little kitchen. A sink, a work surface, and a compact oven with a hob. Your kitchen. She doesn't give you time to respond. You can come and make stuff here anytime, as long as you promise not to raid the mushroom farm. I need those for the gear roll. I was thinking, too, that if things pick up, we can start serving proper food at the the Bantayan. She laughs. Do you like it? It's perfect. Tala gives you a hug, then quickly stands back. I'm sorry. I'm so glad you're here, she grins. Me too. As Tala tidies away the glasses, you inspect the kitchen, checking that it all works. It's small and salvaged, but after what you've had to put up with, it feels like a dream come true. Later, when she's done for the day, Tala comes back to the bar and you share a glass of the good gear roll, the one she didn't distill. And this time you talk about nothing in particular, sharing stories about regulars or discussing the best place to eat on the Eye, which, after everything that has happened, feels like a nice change of pace. When it comes time to leave, you promise to cook for Tala and agree to let her know what shifts you'll be working in the coming cycles, and then slip out into the cool of the rotunda. And in this moment, you feel, for once, at home. Free Spirit, 20 gamer points. Helped a friend distill their future. What happens when I cook the mushroom? I get a bunch of energy. What happens when I cook the gear roll? Is that also just energy? Yeah, they're both just energy. Okay. I think that'll... We'll leave this here in case I have different opinions when I come back to this file, but I think that's where we'll drop our bookmark until chapter 3 comes out. Energy or Yummergy? Hopefully both. Honestly, hopefully both. Yeah, let's quit to the menu. Hey, we didn't drop a single frame that whole time. What a delight. What a joy. Can I match this color? Not quite. I think my closest is the red, which I need to cycle through to get to. It's not that color, but there's some pink. There's a little pink, which is also just red, but that's another story. We're in the neighborhood with this, but we're not quite there. Let's go back to the blue. I was digging the blue. That's Citizen Sleeper DLC 2, episode Refuge. Very much enjoying it. Very intrigued. I like some of the new characters, and I appreciate some of the others. We'll put it that way. I don't know if I like Peter yet, but the writing is very good. And I can see where Peter's coming from. The rest of them, I'm on board so far. I am very concerned about who stole those explosives, though. A little bit nervous. Hey, what if we played some Mega Man? What if we did that? And I did just realize that I had the audio delay set for the HDMI input, so apologies for that on the receiving end. But now when we go to Mega Man, that'll all be set up. Here's what I'm going to do. I am going to end this stream briefly so that it'll go to YouTube as a different video, but I will be back in like 30 seconds after I go offline. That's what we're going to do. Stick around. If you got to go get some more water, use a bathroom, get a snack, go do it. We'll be back, and we'll do some Mega Man X. I'll see you in a bit. Bye!